Okay, it's recording.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Meeting is being recorded. Chair remarks. I'd like to mention a couple of things to get it in the minutes of the meeting. On March 26th, the climate bill was signed by Governor Baker. Peter did distribute that to us. Second item was on March 21st, the state issued the third round of bids for 1,600 megawatts of offshore wind power. So that'll be the third chunk that's now in the works. Also, Peter and I were working with the town, Steve Mayo, on a couple of issues. One, the Envision Wakefield, which is on the agenda and we'll discuss later. The other was public notification of street digging between National Grid, the town, the Light Department, and the DEP to see. People will notice quickly that we're digging all over town. And what we're trying to do is just get some public notification, like the National Grid weekly, so that people know we're digging. And working with Steve Mayo, he has the different departments reporting in and coordinated by, is it Jen McCarthy?
McDonald.
Jen McDonald. And so we're hoping to get something out there that the public can see on a weekly basis.
Yeah, if you want to just give an update on that. So they already have a link on their website to our work, and it's clearly spelled out, but it just takes them generically to our website. So I have Raven working with Jen, and we're gonna have the planned work on our website, and it'll path directly to that from Jen's rather than just taking you generically to our website and have you hunt and peck for it. And we'll do similar summaries to what they're doing in terms of work and macro level schedules.
Pete, out of curiosity, and maybe more work, but is there a possibility to, I know, are you just like gonna give a list of streets and timeframes, but I'm wondering, is there a way to potentially make it more online and using the GIS system like we have the outage map, where they can at the top of the outage map maybe a street work map that the streets are color coded and where we're currently working, where we're going.
She was gonna include the map for the whole work for the whole project. So by street, so for example, she'll have Lowell and Vernon, and it's kind of tough to do it on a day-to-day basis. But if we map out the whole project, that's kind of the level of detail that the town's giving. And so that'll be one project. The Cedar, Emerson, and the cross streets, that's a separate project, and we'll put kind of macro level calendars around that. So we're going to highlight our big projects. It's kind of tough on it. If we come across a class 2 leak or an individual service or things like that, we're probably not going to update that on a day-to-day basis. But we usually, when we're in smaller neighborhoods like that, we flyer the street usually. So it's communicating directly with the people that are impacted. And in this case, usually we flyer before we work. So most of the neighbors really know that what's going on. The problem is when you're on main streets, it affects other people besides the people that live on the street. So it'll be more valuable when we can give but one of the things that Raven's going to put in is a graphic of where we'll be working.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just wondering if maybe if we leverage the GIS, you just simply enter, as a work order comes in, that it automatically highlights on, the GIS map, like we do for the outage map, and something a little bit more, real-timey based on, your data coming in from where work is being done via work orders or that type of, plans.
We don't really track it to that. Like, for example, Mark has a one work order for the whole Vernon Street project, so it doesn't track to that level right now.
Okay, before we get more commissioners' remarks, I just want to note Elton Prifty has joined us as a member of the public, 18 Partridge Lane. And currently, I do not see Julie Smith Galvin, the town representative, on the call. She may join us later. Are there any additional commissioners' remarks or reports?
I have a few. I'll just give a standing update on our green communities efforts, if that's okay. Right now, we're just doing MEI tool setup. So the town is characterizing the different facilities and vehicles, and then we'll enter them into get them structured in the tool. And then at that point, WMGLD will start to append monthly data, probably starting back somewhere in 2018 to those files. So that's the quick update there. Second item is I had just gotten news, I think this happened pretty recently actually, that the biomass plant, the Palmer biomass plant, which is an MLP project through ENE's member utilities, actually did not get permission from, I want to get this right for the record, and I apologize, I'm just looking back through my email. From the Department of Environmental Protection, actually revoked approval for that plant. And that happened pretty recently. So I think that that'll have some implications potentially in the state for biomass plants moving forward, but just to let everyone know that that plant is no longer moving forward as far as I'm aware. And I don't know if Pete, you've heard anything else.
No, not specifically, although I do know there's specific language about biomass in the new climate bill also, so. And I don't think you'll see much interest or pursuit of newer projects in that area going forward.
Yep, that's my feeling as well, based on this decision. Another item that I wanted to raise is I had recently heard actually that Chicopee and Holyoke had pulled out their interest in the natural gas peaker plant, our plant. So I just wanted to confirm that that's true and just.
So what they've done is they've requested to see if, so they're in the plant. They can't just pull out.
Okay.
So they've requested to see if others would be interested in their share of the plant. So the obligation of the purchase power agreement says that MWIC will solicit if others are interested.
I see. Okay. And what were their shares?
They had about 2.5 megawatts each.
And has any interest been provided to date?
I haven't heard feedback yet. I know Matt and Steve are polling the rest of the MWIC participants, and then they'll reach across to the folks that are part of the E&E to see if they want to participate.
Okay. Thanks for answering those on the fly. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, but to be clear on the way the PSA works, they can't just walk away. They're obligated to the project. So they can just solicit if there's interest from others to buy their share.
Mm-hmm. And do we have any understanding of why they would like to have others buy their share at this point?
In Holyoke, I believe it's portfolio related. In Chicopee, I believe it's just concerned with political pushback.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. That's helpful. To keep things going, I wanted to just discuss very briefly that there's a stretch code article on the warrant at town meeting that'll be up on Saturday, May 8th. And I just wanted to reach out to you all as fellow energy experts and community leaders to respectfully request your support of this article. I'll be including some of these points, I think, in a letter to the editor to the item, but I'll just reiterate a few of them here. So building codes in general do not focus on energy use. And so this is actually an energy specific code that would really focus on reducing building energy use. And developers have really little incentive or motivation to minimize the ongoing operational costs associated with energy. So this really focuses on making sure that opportunities to reduce these longer term operational costs are not missed during building construction. And these opportunities can include building shell improvements, such as more insulation and air sealing, and also equipment that uses less energy, such as lighting, space heating and cooling equipment, water heaters, and kitchen and laundry appliances. In this particular instance, I believe on-site renewable energy and water saving equipment is also included as options for developers. It's far more costly to fix buildings after they're built. So the incremental costs to meet these codes are less than 1% of the total construction costs, but provide significant energy cost savings to homes and businesses each year. And they more than offset the upfront costs of this effort. With respect to building codes, Wakefield is well behind others. As of January 2021, more than 80% of towns in Massachusetts have already adopted this code. And that includes many of our neighbors such as Melrose, Saugus, Reading, Woburn, and Stoneham. And given the widespread adoption of this effort, builders are quite familiar with the code and used to complying with it. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, with all of the new building occurring in Wakefield now, the adoption of a stretch code for new buildings is a very high priority for our community. So I just want to say thank you for allowing me to say that, and hoping I will see some of you at town meeting in support of this.
Yeah, and I think what's important to note, what Jen's saying, is that 10 years ago when this was first coming around, the stretch code was truly a major stretch. And as Jen said, today, most builders are dealing with the codes. So therefore, it's not as big a burden or a stretch anymore. They, you know, as you said, they're doing it in so many communities now that it's really not as big a burden on developers as it used to be.
And so this was ties into the green communities. It's one part of that, you know, as liaison to the Environmental Sustainability Committee. They brought this to the town councilors who are sponsoring the bill. And one of the things that really the stretch code does is builders have two methodologies to build, which is one is prescriptive and the other is performance. It just removes the prescriptive and puts in and forces them to do the performance, which really guarantees a good installation. So, you know, for new buildings, you're already paying for the, you know, performant insulation and windows and stuff. As part of the performance is the testing of that and the insurance that the installation is good, so that you don't lose that value from there.
Any additional remarks?
Are there questions on that? Because there's one more little thing I wanted to raise. So the last thing was I spoke with a customer who is trying to convert, or has been for a number of years, from oil to natural gas. And just wanted to note kind of the ongoing confusion about barriers to conversion and paths forward. So in particular, in this case, there was a paving moratorium. You know, their road had been recently paved. They were actually seemed unaware that there was a paving moratorium, didn't know how long it would last and that it might be extended, all of which has a pretty significant impact on their ability to convert and moving forward. And they also were completely unaware of our heat pump options. So I'll just call those out as some things that we need to increase public awareness of, among other things impacting natural gas conversion. And just say that we have kind of ongoing educational needs in our community on these topics.
Yes, we need to.
And that one thing that I was actually going to bring up that Jen kind of touched on. Pete, do we have that heat pump consultants in place yet?
Yes, we've been meeting with them regularly. They've scheduled the contractor meeting for May 4th, and we're very close to updating everything. One of the things that has been suggested, we are going to make some modifications to format and convert it to a per ton basis to be more consistent with the other towns that they work with. So there's some changes coming, and we've been working along with them. So, but they're going to hold their first contractor education session on May 4th. Was it May 4th, Dave?
I think it was the 4th, wasn't it?
Yeah.
4th at noon.
And then along with that, is there a mechanism for just, residents, for, like the
we'll do another educational seminar for residents as well. And we'll do a media blast and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we can hear some feedback from someone on the call.
Yeah, Dave, can you mute Elton? I don't know if he knows
I keep muting and then for some reason, I think he unmutes. So I'm keeping an eye on it now.
Okay.
Is that something, so on I forget, is it, do residents have the ability to connect with that consultant on a one-on-one basis for their?
Yeah, it's actually going to be a required first step going, the process is going to modify. So when they express interest, they'll go right to abode first. That'll be part of the path towards that process.
Okay.
And the key is obviously educating the contractors, because a lot of the work starts with the contractors. So that's why we're going to do multiple contractor sessions. And like I said, the first one's May 4th. So they're well versed in the process, and we've been meeting over the past month on a weekly basis, updating our work processes for this particular bucket and sharing their expertise. So we'll be rolling out at the end of the month with the updated program.
Another item of note that I had is Eversource on April 1st issued a near 5% rate increase for residential, further widening the gap between the municipal light plants and the investor-owned utilities.
What was the percentage you said again, Phil?
Nearly 5%. So
Oh,
now
nearly.
that depends if you're, the old Commonwealth, it varies. They listed like a 4.2 increase, and for the average customer it was just under $6 a month additional.
Bill, is that a proposal that they're filed with the DPU, or is that an approved?
It must be approved. The notice that I got, I had read in the paper, and it had a little more detailed justification of the rate increase. What they sent the customers called it an RDM, an annual revenue decoupling mechanism, and a transmission charge.
Well, it doesn't hurt as much if it's an RDM, right?
Yeah, right. All right, we ready to move on to review minutes of the March 3rd meeting? I had no corrections or additions.
I had really only one. There was something on, let me find the page number. On page 7, the third paragraph from the bottom, where it says the investor-owned utilities are anticipating some support from the state regarding the lost receivables. My only comment is that it doesn't mention who it was who made this comment. I believe it was Pete, but it doesn't indicate that who made this comment.
Okay, I can tie it to the other paragraph. Yep.
I have no changes.
I have no changes.
Jack, is Ken Chase with you on the call?
Yes, he is.
Okay. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the March 3rd, 2011 minutes.
Second,
Okay. Roll call vote. Commissioner Betcher,
Aye.
Commissioner Chase,
aye.
Commissioner Corsi, aye. Commissioner Calais,
Aye.
Commissioner Washall.
Aye.
Vote was unanimous, 5-0. Old business, Peter?
Sure. Project updates, as was noted in the general discussion, we are working with Jen McDonald on upgrading our tie-ins with notification of road work. For the gas side, you'll see a change as of the end of next week. We should be wrapping up our annual spring dead pipe placement. And now what you'll see happen is that we'll be going back and doing services and cutoff, tie-overs, I'm sorry, on a street-by-street basis. So the contractors come in, they get a lot of dead pipe in the ground, and then we come back and basically work on it the rest of the year. So we'll progress through. Our plan right now is Lowell Street to Vernon, and then we'll get over to Cedar and Emerson and that whole area. So we want to try to work on Lowell going into the summer, because part of our work this summer is to convert that second regulator station on Lowell Street. So we want to kind of work through that area and complete it all at the same time. And we are coordinating with the National Grid work. There was a conference call today on where they're going to be and when they're going to be. So we'll try to be staying out of their way. We were given promising news, although I'm quite a bit skeptical, that Bill thinks that the Broadway the tracks will reopen within a few weeks. But I'm gonna hold out expressing direct positive vibes on that one. I'm not confident it's gonna go that easily, but we'll see. So there is a chance that it could open up in a few weeks.
Who is Bill?
Bill Renault, the town engineer.
Oh, thank you. Does any of that have to pass through town budget, however?
So I think what his proposal, which is finally under review by the Federal Railway Association, is that we be given a temporary permit with approval of a permanent solution. So I don't know how they're proceeding with that in terms of budget and all that. But I think he's asked permission to basically more or less go back to what was there before for a period of time in agreement to fix something else. So I'm not directly involved in it, so I'm going to stay clear, but they're definitely hopeful anyway, because they want to open that up before they allow more work on the Broadway Albion side. So the National Grid folks are going to continue to finish Salem and Montrose at night for the next week or two, and then they're going to be on the Broadway section that's closed off at night for another week or two by Broadway Plaza and all that section to kind of finish up that area. And then their hope is to be working during the day up Broadway and Albion to finish that whole part of the project. But they agree that, you know, that probably won't happen unless the railway is open, so the traffic is flowing again. So that's the plan on that right now. We're all done on that whole Broadway area. We have been on site in certain key areas with them at night because we can't let them run into our infrastructure. So the critical work that they were doing on Salem and Montrose around that corner, we've been on site. And when they're down doing the work in a week or two on Broadway by that culvert, as it goes out into North Ave and around towards Jiffy Lube, we'll be working closely with them there also as they replace a section of that culvert.
Question on just the resolution with the Lakeside incident. Are they tied back in? Have they completed their work?
Yeah, so they decided to eliminate that building that burned, and they've gone to an overhead solution, so that if you notice in that property, there's 3 poles that have been set next to the building. And we have a primary meter cluster on each pole that feeds off to a separate transformer within the property. So that whole switching building that caught on fire because the switch failed has been replaced with overhead apparatus for now. I think in the long term, you know, there's probably some plans to change that site somehow, but they wanted to maintain the ability to separately service each of their buildings so that they could have flexibility going forward.
Thanks.
So the McGrail station upgrades, the outdoor switch gear has been de-energized and almost all of the indoor gear has been de-energized, as Vinny gave that update earlier in the year. So Vinny's getting prices for the disposal of that gear, and you know there's some interest in some of the breakers and things like that. So hopefully early this summer we'll be getting a lot of that outdoor gear out of there to kind of complete the work on that site. There is some asbestos that we got to deal with on the inside, so we'll have to deal with that first before we clean everything out of there. But that project's been moving along very well and showing a great deal of progress. So hopefully we'll be, the next big steps are working, as we noted in the handout, on Westwater and Richardson and all that on 4 kV conversion. Because as we move out of the McGrail station on Wakefield Ave, our next focus will be 4 kV conversion so that we can retire the Burns station down in the parking lot of Albion Street. So that'll Ballister Street actually, but that'll be in the retirement of that station will be in next year's project. But there's a lot of work that has to lead up to that in terms of 4 kV conversion.
So just to be clear, retirement is there'll be nothing at that site in the future?
There'll probably be a switch and probably possibly a transformer. But so we won't be giving up the property, but the whole substation apparatus at Ballister Street will be gone. The big station class transformer and switchgear building will be gone. So you might see some stuff that looks like what you'd see in the McGrail yard right now with a pad mounted switch or two, but you won't see the substation kind of walk-in switchgear and substation class transformer. Any questions on that? As Jen mentioned, or Phil mentioned, the climate bill passed and was signed by the governor. So it's great news, and you know, MEM's very happy with the way that all came out. And there was some back and forth between the governor and the legislature on some key areas, none of which had anything really directly to do with us. He was a little bit concerned about the 2030 percentage goal of 50%. He was recommending 45. That doesn't really impact us because our language still said 50, even when the amendments were being discussed, and we're very confident that we'll be over 50 by that window of time anyway. So that was one of his issues. The other had to do with some of the building code stuff and other requirements in terms of efficiency on construction. So he was a little concerned in that market, but again, not a lot of that had anything directly to do with us. And so the bill was passed. So what's on our radar screen right now with that is, I think either Jen or Phil mentioned that the state has gone out to bid for another round of offshore wind. We're in discussions with 2 developers for offshore wind now that hopefully there's a piece available for the muni market, and and MWEC is hopefully creating a project that we could opt to participate in. And so that there's work underway in that world right now, and those discussions have been going on for a little while. And in addition to that, the other big issues in kind of the next phase of this is transmission costs. And so we are going to be closely monitoring what happens at the ISO level, at the more local state levels around transmission costs. We've always felt that there's a place for munis a greater place for munis in transmission ownership, and so I think we're trying to stake our claim that, especially if we're we're going to be a 15% owner of an offshore wind project, that we should be a 15% owner of the transmission that's being built to come in. And we have the ability to finance a lot easier than IOUs or independents can. So we're also having discussions with different transmission owners around opportunities to participate in that side of the world as well. So those are all kind of high level concepts that you'll probably be hearing a lot more about over the next year or two as the rollout of this bill and the implications of what it means going forward come out. Any questions on any of that?
I mean, I just wanted to emphasize that this is all great news. And I mean, this is a landmark piece of legislation, and probably one of the most important pieces of climate legislation ever adopted in this entire country. Strangely, it was adopted under a very strange process that made it eventually just written into law in a kind of non-ceremonial way. But I just want to emphasize that this is really a big deal, both certainly for Massachusetts, but actually for every other state who'll be watching Massachusetts closely and probably following along in our footsteps in short order. So anyways, I think it's great news. I'm excited that we have a roadmap now and we can all kind of sit down and focus on the future in a way that we really couldn't in the past. So that's very exciting.
I agree. I do think that munis have never been given enough credit for what they've already done. And you hear a lot of times, well, it's good that munis have been finally forced to play. It almost implies that we weren't playing before, but we were actually leading before. You know, you look at the IOUs and where they are percentage-wise versus where we are percentage-wise, and it shows that even without the mandate, we've been leading the way. So this just codifies it and shows that, again, we proposed this language to be included in this bill. It's not like somebody had to beat us over the head with it and drag us in kicking and screaming. We had 41 munis united together in support of it. That in and of itself is landmark nationwide, is the fact that we had all 40 munis in the same, you know, MWIC and E&E and everybody else all, you know, singing the same tune, working together to get this done. So it truly is, you know, landmark.
Yep, that too, and the House and Senate, and yeah, I mean, everyone really came together. So that's great news.
I didn't have anything else on that. Phil just asked me to include just a brief discussion. We won't reorg till next month, but the board, I think you just wanted to kind of mention the process, Phil, or?
Yes.
So the next position that would be, so Tom is slated to take over as chair, and the next position that's up would be Ken's. So Elton looks like he's going to take that position. So potentially then Elton would become the secretary at that point. I don't know if you guys want to discuss further. Or that would be the typical flow.
I'm pleased with that.
So it'll be Tom and then Elton, and then Jen, your seat is up after that. So in terms of so you'll be the secretary when Elton's the chair.
That seems fine by me, and I only say that I look forward to meeting you, Elton. And Commissioner Chase, I know you're on the call, and I just want to say how much I appreciate your many, many, many years of service. I mean, it became apparent to me at NEPA that your years of service surpasses anyone probably in the New England region. And that award was so well deserved, and I only wish we could have seen each other personally over the last year more. And hopefully we'll see each other personally as soon as, you know, in person, as soon as reasonably, it's reasonable to do so, and that we can actually have a beer and congratulate one another, and especially you, to this amazing accomplishment.
I too would like to thank Ken for all his leadership and guidance over the years. there aren't many elected officials in the state that have served since the 70s, and Ken's been a leader for a long time.
Thank you. Since we're on that, yeah, I just wanted to say that it's been a tremendous pleasure serving on the board with Ken the last 17 years. And I really do think that the light department has come a long way over the 17 years that I've been on the board, and it had a lot to do with Ken. And in addition to the light department, but also the light board, we've gotten to a good place where we've got some very qualified people. And I appreciate Ken's support of all the candidates who are on the board right now. And so I just really would also commend Ken and thank him for his many years of dedicated service to the ratepayers and the town of Wakefield.
Same. There's not much more I can add other than, thanks for serving our community well for as long as I've been here, and before I got here as well, to make this such a great community as well, from light department and everything else that you've done for our community. Thanks, Ken.
And I concur, and I wish you well. Thank you.
Ken doesn't have his hearing aids. He's hearing everybody.
So he didn't get to enjoy all those nice words?
Fortunately, this is recorded.
Yeah, we can listen to it. Once he... That's right. It'll be posted tomorrow, so.
It'll be in the minutes. He can read it as well.
Are there any other questions? We didn't have a lot of old business other than that. Obviously, last month was a good transition month, finishing up some of the major work at McGrail and getting the legislation passed, and National Grid's getting going again. There wasn't a lot of other stuff to update on that. One of the new things, if we want to move on to Envision Wakefield, the downtown projects, obviously a lot of people know there's work going on Albion Street right now. As part of that, we've had discussions, and there's probably been some communication breakdowns from the town to us on what they wanted there in terms of lighting. We were originally told that they wanted just the shorter version of what was there as a transition to the next step, but then they decided they wanted something a little fancier in the short term. So what we're working on right now is, with that, there comes a cost. I mean, none of this stuff is free. And so we've got a couple of renderings that we're working on right now. The issue we have obviously is cost and lead time. We had a meeting with Ed Dombrowski and Steve Mayo last week, and we'll show you a couple of renderings that are in final discussion. There's probably going to be a combination of a payment by the town for some of the capital costs, and then we'll factor the rest of the capital cost into the streetlight base rates going forward. And so, Dave, do you want to show them and the other discussion, I think many of you might remember, dating way back, the idea of tying Albion all the way across through to Foundry and to a couple of the side streets off of that. Maple, Dave, and what was the other one?
Oh, it's Foundry, Maple, and Lake.
Lake. Yeah. So there's two styles that they're looking at. Yeah. So this would be the project layout. Obviously, the work that's going on Albion Street, and then the other red area on this drawing is the area in front of the new condos. On one side, the condos that are under construction, and the other side, the condos that are being proposed for construction next. There's also construction going on Foundry Street right now at Harvard Mills. So what we're talking about is a more comprehensive use of the decorative lights that Dave showed in these areas. There'll be a combination of, if you want to slide up a second, yep. Dave. Yeah, there will be a combination of a a tighter distribution of lower profile lights with flower baskets on them, and the town has to decide whether they want flag holders also. So we're having discussions with them on that. This would go along Albion Street. This would also be in certain sections of Foundry Street. However, on the larger areas, as you continue Albion across the intersection, you come across the intersection and then you go down Tuttle. If we want all of that to tie together, the more decorative ones wouldn't cover enough light in that area, so we would go to a more roadway version. The only thing that's misleading about this initial preliminary drawing is that to have the zero uplight, the straight down light, dark sky compliant option, you wouldn't have these globes. It would be a flatter, more cutoff fixture that would have put the light straight down to the street. So it would be more like this drawing. This is from, is it North Attleboro, Dave?
North Attleboro.
This is similar to what it would look like. So anyway, so that's in discussion right now. The proposal right now would be that they would pay a certain amount of base capital cost, and then we would fund the rest of it through the streetlight bill over the next several years. It would probably run out for quite a few years, actually.
So I'm not clear on the discussion around the dark sky compliance and whether that's a component or not a component.
It is, so that if
I'll go back to it again. I'll go back to it.
It is a component. So the preliminary sketch had these globes. I'll go back to it.
Right, yep.
Preliminary sketch had the globes. We just want to make sure everybody knows that that's not the light we'd be getting. We'd be getting the one that's actually in this picture. So it doesn't have that globe on the bottom of it. It's cut off. So that means there's no uplight, it's downlight.
So we're finalizing the drawings right now. The drawings now will represent this light with that's dark sky compliant. The initial ones that they submitted to us were not the dark sky compliant fixtures. So he's working on new drawings so that they're properly represented.
And are all the streetlights on Albion the ones that were recently replaced?
Yeah, so we already have a plan for, so part of what we went to many years ago was a streetlight standard so that we can reutilize those poles in the existing lights in other locations. So our plan right now is as we take each one down, we're going to replace the rest of the older aluminum and steel on North Ave and on Chestnut and some of the other streets around there. So we'll reuse all those lights in other areas around that area. So.
And Pete, what was I guess when you said that there was a miscommunication, or what was
Well, the original discussion was that they just wanted to replace what was on Albion Street with shorter poles.
Okay.
And then it became much more involved. So what we thought the plan was that we would get a shorter version of the pole we had there and put it in place for 3 to 5 years, and then we could use it in other places going forward, because again, it's part of our streetlight standard. And it would give the town time to decide as part of the overall downtown upgrade project to pick a new standard. But the town council and Steve wanted to accelerate that process. So I think they still may invigorate that when they get to the downtown portion of it. But they realize they're making a significant capital investment on the Albion Foundry side. So they want to proceed with it. So our recommendation was actually to hold off. So, but.
Are these lights part of our standard now?
No, these will be new.
Okay.
So this whole project would be new fixture. But the other thing we have to remember is that it won't be as big a deal as it used to be, because these are going to be LED lights, so they have a 10-year life. and there's a little bit less ongoing maintenance. We'll have fewer things to stock. You know, part of the problem is you can't have 15 different lights everywhere. We've really worked hard to reduce our inventory and stock. So, but if we use a standard that includes Albion, Foundry, Tuttle, Maine, you know, Maple, all, you know, all those streets in that area, we could probably digest it.
Okay, thank you.
Can you put up the map again for just a second? I just want to see, because this is not, some of these are outside of the current business district. Is that correct? Or is this how the business district is characterized?
No, it's where the developments are in some business. So
Okay.
you look, and you know, I just want to say that we haven't presented this to the town yet. There's been some discussion. So we know that they want to continue across from Albion Street across north and then come down Albion here to the end of to Lake and Albion. So that's really the limits they've talked about because of all the development. So we looked at the roadway here, and we're suggesting that they go with the taller lights because of the type of light that's needed. But also on Tuttle, there's some older lights on Tuttle. So there's some businesses over there. So to just maintain the same type of lighting, we're suggesting that they should look at the 4 lights on Tuttle and put the taller poles over there. But the Foundry Street area has been, you know, that's been a focus to do Foundry, all the 16-foot style lights, same as they're doing on Albion, so that you maintain basically a path that comes down Albion, down to here, down to Foundry. You're on the same or very similar lights. And then Maple, it's the same thing. It has a shoebox style lights, which are very, you know, they're not very attractive. So to maintain some consistency around the Harvard Mills project, this whole block, that we're suggesting that they look at the same style lights on that were on Albion that they were putting. And you know, part of it is we want to know from the town, so we're not going back and forth. Where would they like these lights? You know, and they might come back and say, you know, we don't want them on Lake. We don't want them on Maple. We just want to focus on Foundry, but we want to give them the option to tell us now while we're working out there on what they want to do.
And I don't know if you guys know, this might be more of a, you know, town council, or was there funding or anything from the developers on Foundry Street for streetscaping? You know, is that 100% on, you know, the town and us for the street lighting?
There was a little bit of money in each project for underground fed lights, not to the extent that these are.
Right.
It was planned on the Foundry Street area 8 over here. I'm sorry, area 7. They knew that they were paying some money to underground those street lights, but it didn't include the full capital cost of the more decorative fixtures that are being proposed. So we would have to factor that into the overall project cost.
Yeah, I would only emphasize, and I think this is what you're saying, that, you know, you now have 2 different standards, essentially, one for like business downtown district and one for all other. And I do think it needs to be strong in terms of how you're applying, especially the higher cost lighting options. And some of these areas strike me as business areas, and then other areas strike me as non-business areas. So I just wonder how we're going to make this delineation, because we have lots of multifamily housing throughout Wakefield, but not all of it is deserving of decorative lighting.
And it is the town making the decision, not us.
Yeah. And Jen, I do know from some of the Envision Wakefield discussions that's the, you know, Albion and that, you know, kind of Main Street corridor, they did stretch out to the Foundry Street area to make that, you know, they're trying to make that more walkable, you know, as there are residents going in there so that folks can walk to, you know, businesses on Albion and then to Maine.
Yeah, there's been discussion for a while to that, and the assumption is that Foundry is going to continue to get redeveloped from the existing condos all the way down at some point to back to Broadway, probably over time. So we'd have to be consistent with that. Now, some of that, you know, going forward, if we have a new standard that's adopted, then as the developers redevelop the certain areas, we can put the cost of additional streetlights on them. So.
I will say I really appreciate the dark sky being applied. So thank you very much for doing that. I think it'll come about in legislation eventually, but it's good to have it in now.
Mhm. And it's kind of important to note that all our LED lights are they're all cutoff fixtures. They're all dark sky compliant, all our town streetlights.
Sure, there'll be more to follow on Envision Wakefield as it goes on.
And so once they see the designs and the price tag, they still may opt to go with a longer term look and tie it into the downtown. But Ed Dombrowski approached Phil, and we had a meeting last week and discussed the option. So we're getting back to them with an option on this, and it's kind of up to them what they want to do. So, but we'll do a comprehensive effort to try to give them what they want.
We are spending a lot of time on evaluation of the fixtures, design, you know, so a lot of effort that's been put in to develop, you know, scale drawings that accurately show the lights and pictures of lights so people get a full representation of what those lights would look like.
I think this gives them a lot of information that they need to digest before they pick the lights for Main Street as well.
Yeah.
The effort earlier the better.
Yeah, this is great. Appreciate all your work.
All right, does that complete new business discussion?
Yep.
Okay. Other matters?
Phil, I forgot to bring up, I had requested as liaison from the Environmental Sustainability Committee. They're working on kind of Earth Day, and actually it's more kind of focused on Earth Month. And I asked Pete and team to come up with a one-page kind of flyer to highlight the things that we have been doing around environmental. And I think that they did a really good job with that. I don't know if Dave, if you have that.
Yeah, it's page 40 of the board book. I can call it. Am I able to share too, or?
I will make sure I share it.
Oh, you got it?
You can share. Well, I don't have it readily available.
Hang on, I'll get it.
Hold on. Do you have it? If you don't have it, I'll try to look.
Yeah. No, I got it.
Okay, good.
There we go. I'll just go to share screen. Hang on. Is my machines?
No, not sharing.
No.
There you go. Hang on and share.
Yeah,
There we go.
No, we
All right.
we don't see it. Do we?
Yeah, we see it.
You see it? Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason I'm not seeing it.
So yeah, just some of the stuff that, you know, the utility has done from, you know, total solar installations, you know, kind of just a dashboard around, you know, the EV, our incentives, our portfolio, utility friendly tree planting, and that type of stuff. So I think they did a great job. Have you published this out on the webpage?
No, did somebody mention to Jeff that you thought we'd wait a little closer to Earth Day to put it out there? We're ready to go tomorrow if you want to.
I think from at least, you know, from the ESC, if we can publish it, they'll start linking it. So as part of the ESC, they're going to be highlighting, putting, articles and in the various papers and social media and those types of things, and dropping it. So the utility will be one of those highlights at some point during the month. So if we can have it out there and link it, and then maybe just around Earth Day, if you guys push a social media and website.
We'll do a Facebook thing and so yeah, we'll get it up there tomorrow.
And there is an online version that we asked for, that so all of the places for our rebate programs in EV is a hyperlink back to our program on our webpage. So kudos and thank you for that. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, this is awesome, and I hope we can keep it for more than just Earth Day. So thank you for putting this together. The only thing I would note, though, is just, and this is more for the future, I still think that the naming of some of our programs, like the energy incentive programs and rebate programs, can be confusing. So I kind of hope eventually we might rename them in a way that customers can, like, is more intuitive to the reader. But that's maybe for the future, because this is what we've named them for now.
Yeah, I do hope that we can continue this, year over year. One of the suggestions was, on the top left, to add the year. So, next year we can update this, new information and things that come about.
Yep.
And then one other thing Pete was just asking is there any update on the, did we put out the RFP for the community solar project?
Dave's finishing it up this week, and it should be going out pretty soon.
Okay.
For a request for proposals, yeah.
Yes, yep.
In his free time when he wasn't fixing street lighting issues and retiring substations.
Well deserved.
Another matter, I believe the final financial audit numbers have been submitted and approved.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, so you should have in front of you, or as part of the package, a copy of the final financials, which, just to walk through the process, the auditors come out in September after the June close, and they go through their procedures and whatnot. And then the auditors, there's a comment period for the financials back and forth, and then the auditors present the final, the preliminary financials to the board. This has been a consistent process in prior years. The November-December timeframe when the auditors come out and present, and it's always complete except for one number, which is the pension number. The retirement board is audited on the town side. The retirement board is audited at the same time as, excuse me, as the town. And the department is a participant in the Wakefield Retirement Board, our employees. So we need to wait for that one number, which kind of holds us up. So that number has been dropped into the financials, and they were able to finalize the financials after the town had finalized. So that resulted in the only change, that one number. It was a $312,000 assessment on the retirement. It was broken out. I think it was 80,000 gas, 230 electric, and that was the one number. That was the change. The only number that we were waiting for was from retirement. So.
Like you said, it was consistent with what we were expecting it to be.
And it was consistent with what they were expecting. I don't know if you remember when Zach and Andrew came out and made the presentation. They said they weren't expecting any oh my god changes. We've been through this a few times, so it's not a new process. So as expected, performed as expected.
So we already took a continued vote, so unless it was dramatically different where we could have an issue with the audit, we already took the vote back in November. So this was just to provide you with a copy of the final version.
Just as an update. Yep. Yep.
I had two little questions before we move on to executive session. I don't know if this is the appropriate time.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. One is on the dashboard, and maybe it's a question for you, Mark, but the
Yep.
conservation budget.
Hang on. Hang on.
Sure, I'm sorry.
No, I'm
I've been
flipping
looking
back
at
and
this one
forth
for a
between.
while, and
Yep.
when we went over the EE program status, it kind of rose in my mind as like a question I
Yep.
wanted to ask. So it shows here that we're $55,000 under collected for the EE,
Yep.
which means we're overspent. But
Well,
last
you could look at it
meeting-
either way, but yeah.
last meeting we heard that we were underspent. So I'm confused. Can you help me figure this one out?
So I don't remember what was discussed last, and to be honest with you, I don't remember what we had
Sure,
discussed.
I
But
thought we had
so-
heard, I'm so sorry. I thought we had heard that we were underspent by, I wanted to say like $20,000 from the last program year for energy efficiency.
maybe it was because we netted, so, and again, maybe it was because we netted out the, and treated separately the solar grant. So if we remove that from the equation, because we kind of put that on an island, I don't know if you remember, but when I presented the numbers here, it's inclusive of the solar number. So that might be the difference.
Okay,
So, because when the solar program came up, I don't know if you remember, but if everybody remembers, but we hadn't budgeted for it. We had continued to budget consistently for our conservation budget, and then all of a sudden the solar program came along with the DOE, and we said, this is a good thing. This is a great thing. It's not budgeted. We're going to do it anyway. So.
so this
So he's
includes,
counting what we pay out to customers. What we've paid out includes both the energy conservation charge bills, but also what we've paid out to customers, not only in terms of the conservation rebates, but also the solar rebates.
Correct. That's correct.
okay,
So it's incentives, rebates, and it's also inclusive of the solar, right? The DOE solar program.
We could probably separate that out so you can see the two separate numbers.
So.
okay, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Mhm.
And the other thing I just wanted to ask about, I think this is also for you, Mark, is it
Yeah.
looked like that the receivables aging jumped up in February a bit.
So which, you on page 16, 17, where are you?
So I'm looking at 17, the absolute values actually, because the percentages didn't really change, but the absolute values did.
Okay, so yeah, so in February, and if you look, so we present, and again, we're on page 17, if everybody can turn to 17. If we look at the February number, like consistently for, we go 18, the 3 years, the February number is, again, in absolute numbers, like you said, Jen, is increasing. That's the trend, obviously, because it's gas bills and it's winter, it's high winter usage. So that is again, in absolute dollars, like you said, that is a normal trend.
So if you look at the past 3 years, he includes November, December, January, February, and February is always the highest because you've accumulated all the gas bills for the entire winter by then.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
And just as a note, we're finishing up a little broadcast about a generic statement. Jen shared some suggested stuff, so that'll be on the website soon. But we are doing liens this month. They get put on, and so we start the process by informing everybody. As we've mentioned before, we only liened a dozen or so people last year due to COVID. And the list coming into this year was almost 350 people that were eligible to be liened. So we get that list done early. Mark and Sylvia worked hard on getting that list together, and now Kathy's been actually reaching out to all those folks before we actually have to hand the town the final lien list in the first week of May. We really try to work that list down, and according to Kathy yesterday, we've we've made some progress on that. Some people are responding because they really don't want to get liened and have it appear on their tax bill. So the number will be higher than last year because we have to do it, obviously, but it'll be less than the 340 something we're starting with, so.
Okay, what was the number last year? I'm just surprised that 349 sounds like a big number to me.
Well, it was around a dozen. It was around a dozen or 15 or so last year.
We only did the worst of the worst last year because COVID had just started.
Right.
So we decided we probably should have done somewhere from 30 to 50 last year, but we really only did about a dozen of the worst ones. And at the end, we're starting at 3. So obviously we have carryovers from last year, in addition to, COVID related new people and just general new people. So, we will have a higher number this year, but like, I think we're probably under 300 now based on the work we've done so far. So hopefully that keeps making progress before we get to actually leaning people.
Have we determined we need to enter into executive session? Okay.
So
If we're ready for a motion, I'll wait till Dave completes the recording.
I'll make the motion.
Is there anything we can say before about why we're doing what we're talking about before we go into?
Yeah, that'll be in the motion for the purposes of discussing collective bargaining. And we should probably say in the motion that we're going to return solely for the purpose of adjournment or voting on what we discuss in executive session.
Okay, I think I can do the motion. I'll make a motion to enter into executive session at 7:37 p.m. to discuss union collective bargaining, returning to open session at its conclusion to report on and vote for adjournment.
I'll second.
Motion.
The only other thing I would say is it's possible that we could vote on what we discussed in executive session pertaining to a contract. If we decide in executive session to proceed, we can vote on that when we come out.
Okay. And you add collect the vote. Okay. Roll call. Commissioner Betcher.
Aye.
Commissioner Chase.
Aye.
Commissioner Coursey. Aye. Commissioner Calais.
Aye.
Commissioner Washall.
Aye.
The vote is 5-0 unanimous. Enter into executive session.
okay, I'm going to stop recording now and then start an executive session recording.
Okay.
Okay, we're recording.
Okay, we're back in session and now we're ready to make the motion. Okay, I'll proceed with making a motion to increase the union labor contract 2.75% for a 1-year extension of the bargaining unit contract.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote. Commissioner Betcher.
Aye.
Commissioner Chase.
Aye.
Commissioner Coursey. Aye. Commissioner Calais.
Aye.
Commissioner Washall.
Aye.
Okay, votes unanimous 5-0.
Excellent. Thank you. I don't have anything
To
else.
make a motion to adjourn. No one has anything else? Okay. I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:47 p.m.
Second.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Betcher.
Aye.
Commissioner Chase.
Aye.
Commissioner Coursey. Aye. Commissioner Calais.
Aye.
Commissioner Washall.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous 5-0 to adjourn.
Thank you, everybody.
Pete,